on this very brisk morning, and we're just thrilled that you have joined us. I'm Reverend Dr. Mitzi Lynton, the Faith Forum Chair for today, and it is my great pleasure to introduce this topic and also have our four distinguished panelists here today. And as you may know, this is not, in fact, a tax seminar, so you will be delighted to know that, but we are, in fact, here to learn about creation beliefs from different faith traditions. So the title of our Faith Forum today is In the Beginning. And I'm going to briefly introduce all of our distinguished panelists today, and then before each of them presents, I will give you their bio, because if you're anything like me, I could hear everyone's bio, and then when it gets to them, I'll forget. So it helps me to remember too. So today we have Geshe Jampa Khechok, who is a traditional Tibetan Buddhist. We have Dr. Piyush Shah, who is a Jain. Next to me, we have Dr. Jehangir Bastani, Zoroastrian. And next to Dr. Bastani is Dr. John Molina, Native American. So the first person that's going to begin to talk about faith beliefs from their tradition, or perhaps even something different if there is no faith in the beginning beliefs of how creation started, will be Geshe Jampa Khechok, traditional Tibetan Buddhist. Geshe Jampa is a resident teacher of the Imaho Buddhist Center in Phoenix, offering guidance and teachings on various topics from a traditional Tibetan Buddhist perspective. He completed the 8th grade at the Central School of Bailakuppe, Tibetan settlement, South India. At the age of 15, he became ordained as a monk in Sarah May Monastery. He obtained the fully ordained Bhikshu vows from His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, at the age of 20. Geshe Jampa graduated with a BA degree in Buddhist philosophy from the Gaylord University in 1997. In 2000, he finished studies of all five major Buddhist treatises for 15 years and was granted the Geshe Sonrapa degree equal to a PhD in Buddhist philosophy given by the Sarah May Monastic College. So would you please join in welcoming today Geshe Jampa, who will speak for about 10 or so minutes on creation beliefs from the traditional Buddhist perspective.
Everybody, good morning.
Good morning.
And I'm very happy and honored to be here and organized by the Arizona Interfaith Movement. The director, Dr. Paul Ebbinger, I know him from a very long time. So the topic is a creation. In the Buddhist tradition, we not much we have this creation. So maybe sorry for my some pronunciation and some word, like I have the accent. So the creation of the Tibetan, the Buddhist tradition, we have teachings from the Buddhas and some Indian Buddhist master, but we not much emphasize on how the world created, and also the end of the world. I think there is a in Christian tradition and Muslims, and then many major religion, they have an end of the world, like final judgment and these things. We have that kind of, but not very like detail and much emphasize. So I would like to share a little bit about how in Buddhist tradition, the creation, that the first we say that how the environment started. Then the inhabitants, like the beings, like sentient beings, how started and happened. So the first, especially there is one sutra, Agana Sutra by Buddha, and also the very ancient Indian Buddhist master Vasubandhu, in his book Abhidharma Koshakarika, in those texts, it says that the first world, like they created starting from the wind element. There is a huge wind is there, and wind is kind of like what is called graviated. So everything will like pull or taken by the wind. Then from the space or from the sky, like then it started like the collecting the cloud, and then from the cloud started to rain, and then many days and months and years it started to rain, and then the huge water element started in the world. And then that water, it's become very huge. And through the help of the wind, which is blowing by the wind, and also it's kind of churning the wind, and that water started to become more and more. Then we believe that is the ocean started. So from most in the text, it's very clearly said that the planet is more covered by the ocean. So that's from the Buddha, his teaching is said. Then one part, it becomes like it says that the earth element, which is mostly at that time the gold, gold earth, it's happened. And then on top of that, it says that the first, there is a huge mountain that's called the Mount Meru. So the Mount Meru is in the center of that, the ocean. Then there is the earth element, which is all collected from the gold. Then on top of that, then the Mount Meru, which is the main mountain, it's there. There is every feet, and then how it is size and everything is there. But I didn't remember. So I should careful, the timing isn't.
Oh, you're good. You're
okay,
fine.
it's okay. So then from that, like a Mount Meru, which is the center of that our planet, location. Then it started from the east. There is it is Sanskrit word. It's called Purva Videha. That is on the east, on that Mount Meru. Then there's in the south there is a Jambu Diva, which is like in the south. Then on the west, then there is a Avaga Videhra, and Avarago Daniya. Then I think what's left? East, west, north. I'm sorry. So on the north, then there is a Uttarapuru. So those four are we consider as a planet, and in this Earth planet, where we live, it belongs to the in the south, which is like a Jambudvipa, and that collected more from the Indriya, means like a lapis lazuli. There is a ornament or crystal ornament which created from the blue. So that's why I think that the color is blue. That's why we can see the sky and also the ocean. We can see the color of these two are more blue in the sky and the ocean. And that is so I think there is many detail, but today we have just 10 minutes. So that is how an environment created. Then after that, we say that the being, the sentient being, which is inhabitant, how it started from, there is a celestial being, which is called the Abhasara Brahma world. So a little bit similar as a Hinduism, but I don't know correctly. But in Buddhist tradition, that Brahma world, which is the celestial being, celestial world, from there, the person who like exhausted their karma, who exhausted their life, who exhausted their merits, good virtues, everything is exhausted. Then they like reborn again in this planet. So that is how in this planet, how the human, like sentient beings started, especially the human being. And so there we say that the environment is already started. Then then again there is a from the sky there is a cloud started to rain again, and that water in the planet it comes, and that is very sweet and more like the taste and everything is amazing at that time, So after that, as I said, that the human being reborn there. So they are eating that kind of, these very sweet and it's kind of like a soil, but they eat with that. And those people are that time, we say that it is self-luminous, and they can move through the air, and also the very beautiful people, they everything is amazing, and all are nice people. So then what happened is time goes, it's slowly, and the people who eat more that kind of the sweet soil, and they become a more first they look very beautiful, then they started to who eat more, then they become they less good beautiful. And after that, then people who are better, beautiful and good looking, they started to bullying the people who eat more. So then they started a little bit fighting, and these things happen. And it's later, because of the karma, then these very sweet and nice eatable things from the soil, it's just natural come, they also started to disappear. Then what happened is we call mameboloto. Mameboloto means the crop which no need to harvest or put plant and these things. It's just come, and by eating of that the grain or crops, and then their body also their self-luminous started disappear, because of the eating the very gross level of the food. Before it's not like a gross level, so then they eat it started, and what happened is then it started to their self-luminescence disappear, and then again, like they having the male and female. Before there is just a being, no differentiate. Then it started like male and being, and then after that because of the karma, then looking each other, the man and female, then they started to like making love and these things. Then they said that because of the making love through the just from the outside, there is no house. Then people started to saying like bad things. Then they started to happen making the construction of house and these things. It started. So before this the crops which
1 minute.
Okay, 1 minute. Okay, so so I have to lot of. So before it's not when you just cut the crops or like corn, then it will just automatically or naturally grow in the evening. Then if you cut the evening, then it will grow again in the morning. So these things before it was there, but then few lazy people, they started to collect more to get to in the next morning. They just go there and they cut it for like a bunch of that to have just for the next day. Then they started they have more and these, and because of the some greedy and then lazy, then they say that they started to be more like people who have that more. Then they started to other people also started to stealing their things and the food and these, and how it become like the ruler, because of now there is a fighting between them, so they need some rules to how to keep their the crops and grain things. Then they say that we need one very unbiased person to authorize the rule of that region. So that's why it's come how the people, how the rulers and these started. So that is just I think I will say 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Not 2 minutes, just few seconds. So the last one I would like to say that I think the creation and these things are very important in one sense, but in one sense I think this is not very important. In one ancient Indian master, he mentioned that very clearly. What it says is, means what it's saying is, we don't require how many cells, how many bacteria in our body, who can tell those things correctly, thousands or millions cells or bacteria. It is not important. What important is this world, what needs to be accumulated, what needs to be abandoned. Through the abandon, we get overcoming the suffering. What needs to be accumulated, through that we will seeking the happiness. It will bring the happiness. That is we require. That is very important. So every major religion, I think, teaching same message: love and compassion, forgiveness, and that is, I think, it is more important. I think it is good to emphasize on the creation and these all. It's good, but in one sense, it's not. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Geshe Jampa. And I'm just going to reiterate briefly what I heard. So what I heard was that in Buddhism there is not as much emphasis on how creation began. But what I also heard is that the environment environment started, and you gave a very beautiful description of how the environment started with the ocean and the rain, and first of all the wind, and all the elements coming together, and then a mountain rising up out of the ocean. Very beautiful and very in harmony with each other, all kind of working in cooperation. And then sentient beings came along, and at first it was peaceful, and there was not male or female, there was just beings that were very peaceful, very happy, and it was a beautiful, harmonious place. And then they began to eat the soil. And at first it was very nourishing to the body, but then there got to be a little bit of greed, and people ate a lot more of the soil, and ate more of the soil, and more of the soil, and instead of just being nurturing to the bodies, then it became detrimental. And then the sentient beings began to become both male and female, start to like each other, and then we began to have the human race, and then karma began to come into play more. And so certain people were lazy, and more karma came about, and that ultimately constructed hierarchy. And ultimately, what we heard was that creation ultimately isn't that important. It's what we do here in this life to eliminate suffering in the world, and to remember that love and compassion is the most important thing. Would you say that that was an accurate summary?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So I like to do that because sometimes when I'm listening, I don't hear everything exactly, so I'm taking notes so that I can remember too. So thank you again so much. Our next speaker is a very beloved, actually all of our speakers are beloved, is a beloved member of the Arizona Interfaith Board, and he has been with the Arizona Interfaith Movement for many years. He is representing the Jain faith, and he is the Sunday school coordinator and a teacher for the Jain Center of the Greater Phoenix community. He was actively involved in the construction and inauguration of the Jain Temple in Phoenix in 2008. He lives in Mesa with his wife Varsha and two daughters, Marcy and Shivani. So please help me welcome Dr. Piyush Shah. Sorry, Mr. Piyush.
Yes. Thank you. I was just going to correct one minor correction in your otherwise very kind introduction. I'm just merely a Piyush, Mr. Piyush Shah, not doctors. Today's topic is creationism and Jainism. Jainism is a religion which grew out of India and not very well known outside India. So hopefully this will shed some light on Jainism, at least the creationism part. And let me start with a statement which maybe is shocking to some or surprising to some. Jainism does not believe in God as a creator of this universe. So what do we believe then? Well, what we believe is that the universe and its constituents, which is soul, matter, space, time, and principles of motion, have always existed. There is no beginning, no end. It has been there from beginningless time, and it's going to live forever. So there is no beginning, there is no end. So then, if we don't believe in God as the creator, however, we do believe God not as a creator, but as a perfect being. And what is this perfect being? The perfect being has this soul with infinite bliss, infinite happiness in its natural state, and that soul does not have a body. That soul is liberated from this cycle of life and death. And I'll come to that. How does this whole cycle of life and death come about, and how do we go about becoming one like God? So we do believe in God, but not as a creator, but as this perfect being which is liberated. So there are two major types of liberated souls. One are liberated souls who followed the path and got liberated. But there are certain liberated souls that in their last life, when they had a body, they decided to show the path to liberation to all the people. And we call them as Tirthankara, or godlike. They are supreme teachers who showed us the path to liberation so that we can also overcome this cycle of life and death. And they, last Tirthankara, in this time cycle, there are 24 of them. The last one we call Mahavira, 2600 years ago, almost a contemporary of Buddha. And he was the last one to give us this path. So these Tirthankaras, we do have idols and we do worship them. But the worship is not to get some material benefits. The worship is done to get an inspiration, saying, thank you for showing us the path to liberation. Because if you had not shown, we would not have been able to figure out how to get liberated. So the question is, how did it all start? Just like gold, when it's taken from the ore, from the mine, it's not pure. It is covered with carbon, sand, all the particles. So the inherent quality of gold is covered by this dirt. Just like the gold had to go through the purification process of high temperature, high pressure, removing the impurities out of gold, and then it became a shining gold that we could say, yes, it's become a valuable gold. Previously, if you had looked at the ore, nobody would have believed that this has the potential to be like gold. Similarly, our souls have been covered with what we call as karmic particles. Karmic particles are something, whether you do good or bad, these karmic particles get attached to the soul. So we've been like that since time millennium. And our job is to get rid of all the karmic particles and reveal the inherent quality of the soul. And that is the liberated soul that is without the body, without the karmic particles. So the idea is that as long as you have karmic particles, you have to acquire a body. And the body can be in 4 different forms. One is you can be born as a human. Another is you can be born as either animal or plant life. So ants, scorpions, they all have souls in it. And the third and fourth are the heaven and hell. We do believe in heavenly beings. We do believe in hellish beings. But those are not the end destination. They have a soul, they have a body. Remember, the goal for Jains or anybody who follows this path is to get rid of the body and be this true nature of the soul with its infinite bliss. So that is how, so these are the 4 different types of body that a soul can acquire. So for example, when I die, I will be born into some another being or soul, one of those 4, depending on how good or bad I did. If I did really bad things, I could be born as an animal or a plant, or I could be born in hell. If I did good things, I could be born in heaven, or I could be born as a human being. But the beauty of the human being is that only as a human, you can be liberated from this cycle of life and death, can get rid of your body permanently, and be the soul that is inherently blissful. Not in any, if you're in heaven, you have to come back to human being, and then from a human being, you become this liberated soul. So that is the importance of human being, that it is very rare and it's very precious. So don't waste it. Don't lose it in doing silly things like anger, pride, deceit, greed. So the idea is to conquer all our inner enemies, which is, as I mentioned, these passions. Likes, dislikes, attachment, aversions, hatred, things like those inner enemies. Once we got rid of all the inner enemies, then you can be liberated. So that is the path shown by the Tirthankaras that takes you to the liberated soul. Once you're liberated, you don't come back. You don't take a body again. You're liberated. You're staying in a blissful state. There is no distinction. Each soul is unique, even in the liberated state or non-liberated state. Each soul is unique. Each soul has to work through its own efforts. Not, I cannot do it for him, she cannot do it for me, I cannot do it for her. I have to conquer my inner enemies. How can I get rid of my anger? She cannot help me remove my anger. I have to work towards removing my anger, pride, deceit, greed, and I have to work that and live a life of non-attachment so that my soul gets liberated. And once it's liberated, as I said, there's no turning back. You are liberated, you're free, you're in eternal blissful state. So, this Jain view of creation, which is basically there is no creator God, kind of somebody questions, that means is Jainism atheistic? Meaning it's an atheism because it does not believe in creator God. And I'll end with that question. To answer that question, the scholar Heinrich Zimmer suggested that a new word was needed, transtheistic, meaning inaccessible by arguments as to whether or not a God exists. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. That was really enlightening and wonderful. And just to do a very brief recap, Jainism does not believe in God as creator of the universe. There's no beginning and no end. It is eternal. Not believing, but believing in God as perfect being of all, as bliss, and that the goal in this experience of life is to be liberated from the karmic bonds, and that each, and you gave a beautiful example of gold, the potential of gold, that we might see gold in dirt, and then as we take it up and wash it off, we see, we might not even recognize that it's gold, and then we wash it off and we see this beautiful gold. And you talked about that there's 4 ways that we can come back, or that we can be liberated, and but only liberated through the human body. But there's human, animal, plant life that we all have souls, heaven and hell. But it's in the body, it is the way that we can be liberated. And the way that we're liberated is to become free from anger, free from attachments, and really, basically, going back to what Geshe said, to live a life that promotes happiness, joy, love, and respect for all. So, did I sum that up?
Yes,
pretty much.
I think just one correction. When you're born in heaven or hell, or plant life or animal life or human, every soul in those situations still has a body. It's not liberated in heaven. It's not liberated obviously in hell. So the only way you can liberate yourself is only in human life. Yes. That's why it's important. There is the importance of human life.
Yes. Thank you so much. Woo. So next we turn to one of the oldest faith traditions of all, the Zoroastrian faith. And I am blessed that I got to spend some time in India many years ago and get to learn quite a bit about Zoroastrians and have some friends in India and also in New York that are Zoroastrians, and I've always been fascinated by this. And we're so honored to have Dr. Jehangir Bastani here. He was born and raised in India in a fundamentalist Zoroastrian family. He was raised in a cantonment. What does cantonment mean?
It's where the army, it's a Brit terminology, where the army was kind of localized. The natives would come and provide supply, but not allowed to live. Subsequently, the natives were allowed to come and reside as well. But if an epidemic of cholera happened or typhoid happened, they would just cordon off this cantonment, so the soldiers never got the infection, or plague, for instance.
Thank you. And so he had a very diverse upbringing, thanks to his neighbors, who came from 6 different faiths. He attended the local Jesuit school from elementary through high school and went on to complete his medical school training locally. After completing his psychiatric residency, he met his wife, Shobha, who actually is here today. Hi, Shobha. We're so delighted and thrilled that you're here with us as well. Their wedding was on another page. Somewhere. Okay, here it is. Their wedding was conducted in the local Gurdwara, which is a Sikh temple, and they immigrated to Omaha, Nebraska in winter 1972, where Dr. Bastani practiced psychiatry for 28 years. He served in the U.S. Army Reserve Medical Corps as detachment commander during Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. He retired for health reasons and moved to Phoenix. Dr. Bastani and his wife have 2 children who were both initiated into the Zoroastrian faith, as well as 2 of his grandchildren. His grandchildren just had their Nojoti thread ceremony 3 months ago at the local fire temple in LA. His family has benefited from their religious plurality and celebrates the Hindu and Zoroastrian holidays, and we are going to benefit also today by hearing you talk about creation beliefs from the Zoroastrian tradition. Please help me welcome Dr. Bastani.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for inviting me. This is my first experience.
The microphone is louder.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for listening to me. And first and foremost, I need to warn you guys, you have to take a quiz before you leave. So, now, there are 2 ways of presenting the Genesis for the Zoroastrian faith. The first one is what grannies told their grandkids before putting them to bed. I'm sure everyone is interested in that one. Not really, come on, it's only lunchtime, not supper time. And the other one, of course, is the Cliff Notes. I'm going to go through the Cliff Notes only because the book of creation is composed in the 6th century, AD. It's called Buddhism. And it is contaminated with thoughts from Christianity and Judaism, which was already existent at the time. So I'm going to try and incorporate what the prophet himself said. But before I go to what the prophet Zoroastrian, he's the prophet, said, a couple of things I need to let you know. Trick question. Zoroastrians do not proselytize. You're not going to be approached, your homes are not going to be knocked, no emails, I promise you that. The second thing I need to share with you is, I want you to think of a time way back in prehistory, post-Ice Age. You're looking at the steppes of Russia, or you want to look at the Caucasus, mountainous, hilly terrain, pasture lands, cattle. Not exactly, you're just settling down. It's no longer a nomadic life, it's agricultural. And people are settling in villages, and identity is being fostered with their clans, their family, their clans, their tribes. And they believe in gods. There's a god for this and a god for that, multiple gods, god of wind, god of rain, god of thunder, god for fertility. So, and the belief is God created the world in 7 stages. Now I'm talking about the Indo-Iranian Genesis, version of Genesis. Indo-Iranian, if you remember, there was a sect of the Caucasus, from the Caucasus Mountain they went to Europe, and the other half went to Iran and India. I'm talking about the Indo-Iranian. So the 7 stages are, the first stage was that the sky was built, and the sky is a stone casing. It's a shell enclosure. The second stage was this casing, the lower half was filled with water. The third was earth. The earth was laid out and it rested on the water like a flat disc. Then, of course, a single plant was planted from which procreated others. A bull was created in the 5th stage, and the 6th stage was man, the original man. Well, what are you thinking about your kid going to pottery class? After the first piece of pottery he makes, what does he do with the pottery? Does he bring it home to you or does he smash it? Well, the gods decided to smash what they created by sacrificing it. Having sacrificed it, they scattered, and as a result there was abundance of plants, animals, and humans. Zoroaster tried to talk these people who believe in multiple gods into incorporating their beliefs into his belief of one God. Now, the one God concept is an extremely alien concept if you are used to multiple gods. So he takes the Genesis, incorporates it, and presents it as, in the beginning there was Aura Mazda, that's God. In the beginning there was one God. There was no finite, it was infinite, it was void. Time was infinite. And it was lit, very bright. There was, and it was not exactly stasis, but it was, and God created divine beings. God later went on to create, whether he got bored, I have trouble really interpreting that, so bear with me. God then, this is not the Hinduism version of of Leela, that is a play that God gets bored and decides to create human beings and then the interplay of humans entertains God. No, this is not that concept. The concept is God then created Earth. He decided to create an infinite time and a finite time. The finite time is the end of the world. But there is also an infinite time which we cannot comprehend. Zoroaster alludes to that in his message. Now, having created, deciding to create Earth and finite time, the first he created was the sky. Sky, of course, the next thing is there's a sun which has to be created, and fire. Sun and fire is the same. Water is created. And along with that is Earth. Earth again is a flat disk. So the Earth is flat. And then he created the first animal, which is a bull. And the first man who is created by him. Around this time, the devil, and the devil is referred to as Ahriman, who lives in darkness down below, bursts through the shell, drains the water, plague, pestilence, insects, scorpions, snakes, go figure why those are picked. But they plague the plants, disease is brought about, infect the animals, and the man, and as well as man. The devil is bent on killing and destroying God's creation, as a result of which the bull passes away, as does man. The first man dies. He's dead for 40 years. His bones are now leached. And God, in his infinite wisdom, decides to, from the bones, create is a plant that comes about. After 40 years, a plant is born from this, from the bones, the leached bones. The plant becomes a set of twins. They have a human body on top. The plant is akin to the rhubarb, but I can't understand how a rhubarb has a long stem with 15 leaves, but so be it. I'll ask you to indulge that. And the plant then is created into man and woman. It becomes man and woman. Now, this is the version which is Zoroastrian's. Subsequently, there's a lot of contamination. There's a couple of things I need to mention. One is, there is a Mount Hara, and Geshe was talking about Mount Meru, and we believe there's Mount Hara, which is a tall mountain, which is around the border of Afghanistan and Tajikistan and Iran. And Mount Hara anchors the earth. From Mount Hara flows this river, which goes into the ocean. The ocean separates the landmass into 7 land masses. Rather, 6, excuse me. 7, excuse me, I stand corrected. 7 land masses. So, students of geography, if you think about it, you think of your continents. That's what got me thinking. The Arctic and Antarctic being the other 2. So, it's something to ponder and think about. What is it in you we still are learning? So, man was in the center continent. I assume that would be the Caucasus or the steppes. the proliferation of mankind from there was rain which subsequently came. Our Mazda made sure there was rain, there was creation of life, plants, and subsequently the human race developed. The first man and woman had 7 sets of twins, and from one of these twins is what the human race came about. And bear with me because the names. Sorry, there was 6. Sorry, I take that back. 6 pairs of twins. One of the twins was Siamang and Basang. They had another set of twins. Twins begets twins, if you remember that. And from Frawag and Fravagen, there were 15 pairs of twins. These 15 pairs of twins are the ancestors, our ancestors. Something to ponder about because they're doing the DNA analysis of the races and finding out that we all come from one common denominator. So, well, anyway, that is the genesis of, and I will hold back questions you may have.
Thank you.